Dozens of Defence Force personnel have packed up and left as police pull the pin on their latest outback search for South Australian boy Gus Lamont. As Lauren Rose reports, it's been almost 3 weeks since the little boy vanished from his home, seemingly without a trace.
It's the end of the road for authorities here today. They've thrown everything at this latest search, but there's still no sign of 4-year-old Gus Lamont.
A 4-year-old boy is playing in the Australian outback. His grandmother looks away just for a short moment. When she turns back, he's gone. No footprints, no clothing, no trail, just empty land, endless silence, and questions that still haunt everyone who's been following this case. This isn't a scripted TV show. This isn't fiction. This is the real disappearance of Gus Lamont, and what's emerging from this investigation is disturbing. The story doesn't just raise questions, it raises red flags. And at the center of this storm is a man whose silence is deafening. This is the story they don't want amplified. This is the story of how a 4-year-old boy can disappear and how the truth can be buried just as easily. Gus Lamont was born in 2021. A bright-eyed, curious little boy who grew up in the wide, quiet, unforgiving landscape of rural South Australia. He lived on a remote sheep station near Yenta with his mother, Jess, and younger brother, Ronnie. The family's life was built around the land, early mornings, hard labor, and endless stretches of bush and paddocks. Gus spent much of his early life under the care of his maternal grandparents, Josie and Shannon Murray. Josie was deeply bonded with him. Neighbors described them as inseparable. His father, Joshua Lamont, lived 100 kilometers away in Ballali North. Their relationship was complicated, marked by distance, tension, and unresolved family conflicts. Joshua once performed country music under the name Billy T before his life took another path. His relationship with Jess and her family was strained, particularly with Josie, Gus's transgender grandmother, a fact that had caused deep family rifts. But despite the tension, life went on in the quiet rhythm of the outback, until one ordinary afternoon, that rhythm was shattered forever. It was Saturday, September 27, 2025, a calm afternoon. No storms, no chaos, just silence, the wind moving over the dry grass. Gus was last seen around 5 p.m., playing outside near a patch of sand beside the homestead. Josie was tending to the sheep, only meters away. She assumed he was right there, safe, but by the time she looked again, Gus was gone. She called out, nothing. She searched the paddock, nothing. She ran to neighbors. They spread out across the property. For 3.5 long hours, the family and neighbors searched frantically. No sign of Gus, no sound, no footprint in the sand. Only at 8:30 p.m. did Josie finally call the police. By then, darkness had fully swallowed the outback. That gap, those missing 3.5 hours, would become a turning point in the investigation. When a child goes missing in the outback, time is everything, and this community wasted none of it. Police arrived quickly. Helicopters scanned the open terrain with floodlights. Drones with thermal imaging swept the fields. Volunteers scoured every inch of the sheep station. Neighbors walked the bushland, shouting his name into the night. "You just drop everything and go," one searcher said. "You don't question it, you just help." But by morning, there was still nothing. No trail, no clothing, no clues. As if Gus had evaporated into the wind. Authorities later called it one of the largest, most intensive searches for a missing child in South Australian history. But no matter how far or wide they searched, there was no Gus. In cases like this, parents usually become the face of the search. They hold press conferences. They beg for information. They show the world their desperation. But Gus's father, Joshua Lamont, didn't. He was 100 kilometers away at the time of the disappearance. But even after the news broke, there were no public appeals from him, no urgent interviews, no emotional plea for his son's safe return. He stayed silent, detached, absent. Criminologists and investigators know silence from a parent during a crisis is a major behavioral red flag. It doesn't prove guilt, but it doesn't feel normal either. When your child is missing, you scream it from the rooftops, one search volunteer said. You don't just stay quiet. Red flag #1. The 3.5-hour delay. Gus vanished at 5 p.m. Police weren't called until 8:30 p.m. That's a lifetime in a missing child case. Red flag #2. Father's physical absence. Joshua was living away, but after the disappearance, there's little record of him leading or even joining search efforts. Red flag #3. Lack of public communication. In other cases, parents appear in front of cameras. Joshua didn't. Red flag #4. Complicated family dynamics. The fractured relationship between Joshua and Gus's grandmother, Josie, was known in the community. Investigators are forced to consider whether those dynamics played a role. This is not about accusation. guessing, it's about facts, and these facts don't sit right. Criminologists like Dr. Xanthi Mallet have spoken openly about these patterns in similar cases. She notes that detachment, silence, and delay often correlate with insider knowledge or unresolved involvement. People who are innocent and desperate to find their child tend to be vocal, emotional, and relentless, Mallet said. When that doesn't happen, investigators look closer. Joshua Lamont has not been charged. He has not been accused by police of wrongdoing. But his behavior has raised eyebrows among experts and the public alike. This is why many believe there's far more to this case than what's being shared publicly. As the investigation deepened, three major theories emerged. 1. Custodial abduction. Could someone close to Gus have taken him intentionally, perhaps even a parent or family member? Custodial abductions often involve family conflict, and Joshua's distance from the homestead only fuels suspicion. 2. Neglect and cover-up. Was Gus left unsupervised for too long, leading to an accident? If so, did fear or shame lead to a delayed response and cover-up? 3. Third-party or insider involvement. Did someone connected to the family, possibly even a relative, play a direct role? Investigators are not ruling out foul play. All three theories intersect at one uncomfortable truth. The people closest to Gus may hold the answers. The search for Gus didn't last hours. It lasted 10 long days. 10 days of volunteers trudging through paddocks. 10 days of helicopters cutting through night skies. 10 days of hope slipping further away. And at the end of it, still nothing. When search teams scale back, the tone of an investigation changes. It shifts from rescue to recovery, and from recovery to investigation. The case moved to South Australia's major crime investigation branch. That alone tells you the seriousness of what they suspect. When media attention fades, so does pressure, and when pressure fades, so does accountability. That's how cases like Gus's end up buried, not because there are no answers, but because people stop asking the hard questions. Gus Lamont isn't just another missing child. He's a little boy who deserves a voice, and if the people closest to him won't fight for him publicly, we will. Let's be honest, what we're talking about here makes some people uncomfortable. Not everyone wants this case dissected. Not everyone wants fingers pointed near the family. We know what happens when we push too close to the truth. Our previous channel, with over 10,000 subscribers, was taken down for digging into stories just like this. Stories where silence protects the wrong people. Stories where children vanish and no one wants to rock the boat. But that's exactly why this matters. This isn't just about one boy in South Australia. It's about how cases like this slip through the cracks again and again. We need to be louder than the silence. We need to keep the pressure on. We need to remind the world that Gus Lamont's name still matters. Share this video everywhere. Comment your theories below, even the uncomfortable ones. Subscribe. We are rebuilding our platform from the ground up, and your support is the only thing they can't silence. Use the hashtag #JusticeForGus so this story never fades from the algorithm. Somewhere out there is the truth. Maybe someone knows something. Maybe someone saw something. And maybe, just maybe, the key to unlocking this case is already in the hands of someone who hasn't spoken up. We've seen this pattern before, and we've also seen miracles. Cases solved years later because ordinary people refuse to stay silent. This is bigger than the Outback. This is bigger than one family. This is about justice. Gus Lamont, 4 years old, loved, missed, and still out there somewhere in the silence. We will keep asking the questions others are afraid to ask. We will keep pulling at every thread, and we will not stop until the truth comes out. This is not over, not by a long shot. This is Crime Zone, where the truth has no filter, and where silence is not an option. They want us quiet. We choose to be louder. #JusticeForGus, #Gus Lamont, #TrueCrime, #CrimeZone, #NeverForgotten, #Missing Child, #South Australia, #Truth Matters, #Don't Stay Silent.